Well, they just said it was the British Army.
And had the phone been ringing very much before then?
Not really.
So you're a bit surprised to have it ring at all?
Well, I didn't expect to hear them on there.
Did you say anything to them?
No, they asked me if the Argentines were here, and I said no, and then I went and got Dad.
I was down in the kitchen, and when Michelle burst straight through the door and said, the British are on the phone, you know, and I sort of couldn't really believe it. No one sort of thought she was joking, so I came in and answered, and they said, yes, the British Army. And I said, well, that's great, you know. Where are you? Of course, they wouldn't tell me. They said, we're still in the Darwin area. But I knew they were fairly close because they were quite late on the phone.
Mm-hmm. So what did they ask you?
They asked, was there any Argentines in the area? And I told them that they'd pulled out the day before, after they blew the Fitzroy Bridge. And they asked, was there any at Bluff Cove? And I said, well, there wasn't. They all pulled back past there. And they said, fine, we'll be seeing you later.
So again we formed up a heliborne force, and this time we had the 2 armed helicopters, once again flying flank protection. We had a single scout flying as pathfinder ahead of the group, followed by 2 scouts which had then LS parties, in other words armed soldiers, ready to leap out and fan out on the ground and secure the landing sites for any other helicopters to come in. And 5 minutes behind, that is in time, we had our one faithful Chinook, which magically at that moment had fallen into my hands. It had arrived for some other task, and we grabbed it. And we shoved as many soldiers as we could into that Chinook, more, I dare say, than the makers ever intended a helicopter should carry. We had 2 sections of 81mm mortars, we had Milan missiles, every single soldier carried 4 mortar bombs, and we kept cramming them in, and when they didn't fit any longer, we literally booted them into the helicopter and got them in. And so this force took off and flew low up there, and we waited then, very anxiously indeed, for the code words to come back that they'd grabbed the place. And it's a distance of 55 kilometers, which is really quite some leap. They put down, and they got it, Fitzroy, and then they put down, and they got Bluff Cove.
The importance of the small settlements at Fitzroy and Bluff Cove lay in the bridge that linked them. The last bottleneck on the road to Stanley, it was now firmly in British hands. The urgent need was to get more troops up to them. Helicopters were in short supply, desperately so after Atlantic Conveyor was sunk. The lack of them was slowing the whole advance. The Gurkhas started off walking, but there wasn't time for the whole brigade to march to the front, even if they could. Every possible means of transport was pressed into service. The flag of the 5th Infantry was hoisted over the Monsoonan, an old island trader which was used as a big landing craft. With a company of Gurkhas and as many stores as could fit into the hold, she set off for the 6-hour voyage along the coast to Bluff Cove. One of the islanders, Finlay Ferguson, volunteered as skipper with a local crew. Along the way she passed the Islas Malvinas, an Argentine patrol boat which had been shot up by the Sea Harriers during the blockade. But now the air threat was against us. It was our turn to be worried about air attack.
Gurkhas are tremendous realists. They just accept things for what they are. They know why they're here. They know what it's all about, and they'll just accept the country for what it is and just get on with surviving in it and living in it.
They've been digging their own holes to go into?
Yes, we walked all the way from San Carlos down to Goose Green, which took several days. And each day, each night, we were setting up in a new position, digging a new set of shell scrapes, sangers, and preparing ourselves for defence of ourselves. So they're getting used to the routine, basically.
So a lift on the way is very welcome.
Oh, magic. Fabulous not to have to walk.
Ahead of us, the brigade headquarters was being set up in a barn. The maps were being marked with the dispositions of the enemy. The final plans for moving the last dozen miles to Port Stanley were being laid. The end could not be far off. The desperate need was to get men up to the front. They were being brought round by sea and slipped ashore at night, but for their equipment, ships would need to come in and anchor. The engineers were already repairing the bridge between Fitzroy and Bluff Cove. The Argentinians had blown up one end. It would have to be repaired before vehicles could move across it. But the retreating troops had only had time to destroy one pair of supports, and the work was well advanced. Even the mines left in the rubble hadn't slowed things up.